Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to EFL Championship predictions. We are back with Championship predictions for midweek games after a pretty crazy weekend of Championship action. I am joined by Sophie. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Looking forward to these ones.
Yes, plenty of interesting results over the weekend that we will get into as we talk through this video. First things first though guys, you know the drill. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do and the support from the Championship fans has been absolutely fantastic this season. 1,500 likes would be amazing. It's free to drop a like, so make sure to get involved. And while you're there, also make sure you are subscribed. I know half of you are subscribed and you're absolute legends, but to the other half of you, get involved, hit the subscribe button and help us get to 60,000 subscribers. The final thing to mention, Sophie, is the scores from last week where I did beat you. These are the scores then overall, and it's still pretty close, isn't it? Let's get into predicting some Championship games, Sophie. Let's start at Ewood Park for Blackburn Rovers versus Millwall. It's quite interesting how this one's come about, Sophie. Obviously, I think we've said on numerous occasions that these two were right in the mix last season, in the playoff mix. Remember, they actually played each other on the final day, and Blackburn beat Millwall. Then they both missed out on the playoffs. This time round, it's not been as good. They've both been trying to fight off relegation. They've both brought in new managers over just the last couple of weeks, and we have seen signs of improvement from perhaps both of them.
Yes, I would say so.
This one's quite tricky to call, so it was a really decent result for Millwall against Watford at the weekend. As for this one, Sophie, do I kick-start it with a draw?
I think you're gonna.
I think I am. I'm going to go for a draw. I think the home advantage could tip it for me, but I'm going to say this is one where they could both just get a point and move a bit further away from trouble. It's not like either of these are going to make the playoffs this season. They've just got to steer clear from trouble, and I think, to be honest, right now, it looks like they might both be okay, but we'll see. I'm going to go 1-1.
I've just got a feeling about this one that Millwall is going to get a result. I was very, very tempted to sit on the fence as well and say maybe a 1-1 draw. But I feel like right now Millwall just have that little bit more about them, so I'm going to say 2-1.
Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like they're fighting a little bit harder right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think I look at these two managers and they're both really sort of like experienced. I mean, Neil Harris has experience at Millwall. Obviously, John Eustace has experience in the Championship before. So I think they'll both be able to guide their clubs away from trouble and possibly push on next season. It's an interesting matchup, isn't it? On to the next one, Sophie. A game we will be going to on Tuesday. It's Coventry City versus Rotherham United. Now, if you remember last week, I did back Coventry to lose to West Brom, and we did. I wasn't entirely surprised. I always thought it was going to be a tricky game. This time round at home, it is Rotherham United, and Rotherham are bottom, Sophie. We need to make sure we win this. We just have to win this, don't we? It has to be a win. Rotherham United this season have just struggled. That said, we need to be wary because they did beat us at their place. But I do think Rotherham are much better at the New York Stadium than they are away.
True.
Away from home, they're really not very good. I could be left with egg on my face here, but I'll say Coventry should win fairly comfortably. 2-0 I'm saying to Coventry.
Yeah, I think with Rotherham right now, it's almost like they're down and out. But they have been putting in some better performances recently, so they could cause us a hiccup here. But I do feel like we've got too much quality. They're not as good away from home. We are better at home. So I actually agree with your scoreline, 2-0.
Yeah, it has to be a win, doesn't it?
It needs to, yeah.
If you drop points in this game, could that be playoffs off?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, it really could be a damaging result, that one. So share your thoughts on Coventry versus Rotherham. Next up, Sophie, this is interesting. It's Hull City versus Birmingham City. Now, these two have played each other quite a few times this season because they did play in the FA Cup, and that was a draw, so that went for a replay. And between them, in those games, really not a lot to separate them. I do feel like in the league and with the home advantage, Hull City are my favourites here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Birmingham can come and make it difficult. You know, they've got it in them to even challenge some of the top teams. But Hull City are in the playoff race, Sophie, and Hull City need to keep churning out points. Like I say, I think it could be close and possibly cagey, but I think Hull edge it. I'm going to 1-0 or 2-1. I'm going to say, let's go for a 1-0.
Okay.
1-0 Hull City.
Yeah, well, I'm not going either of those scorelines. I think it could be a little bit more convincing because Hull, now look at this as a winnable game. That's no offence to Birmingham City at all because they have looked a better team in recent weeks. But for me, Hull win this 3-1.
3-1 Hull City.
Yeah.
And they go for quite a few goals. Interesting. Share your thoughts on that one if you're a Hull City fan or a Birmingham City fan. Next up, we go to Ellen Road, Sophie, where it is Leeds United versus Stoke City. Two teams at really sort of polar opposite ends of the table.
Yeah.
Can you see Stoke getting anything from this one?
No, I can't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put any money on it.
Especially with it being at Ellen Road as well.
Exactly that, yeah.
Leeds United are still unbeaten at Ellen Road. And one thing we didn't actually mention last week, Sophie, is you got a really good prediction right. You backed Chelsea to beat Leeds 3-2. You've actually been pretty decent with your Leeds United predictions recently, so I'm intrigued to see what you go for
this one.
in this one. Let's not beat around the bush. Stoke City are in a fierce relegation battle, so they're not going to come here and roll over. They need to fight, but the power that Leeds United possess will surely be too strong. I'm going to say Leeds 2-0.
Okay, yeah, I think what Stoke need to do, weirdly, is actually look at how Coventry set up against them a couple of months back, and we managed to grind out a point. We sat very, very defensive, and it worked. So if they could do that, it'd be a massive point. But I don't think they've got the quality to do it. So 3-0 Leeds.
Really?
Yeah, I can see it being a fairly easy walk in the park for them.
Yeah. Are Leeds United going up?
You keep asking me these questions. I don't know. It's looking likely, yeah.
Yeah. On to the next game, Sophie. It's a big game at Hillsborough. It's Sheffield Wednesday versus Plymouth Argyle. Two sides that came up from League One. And to be honest, all three teams that have come up have been great additions. Ipswich Town are doing amazing. Plymouth mid-table. And Sheffield Wednesday are a nice old historic club to have back in the Championship. But can they stay there? They're of course in a fierce relegation battle. They did get the win at Rotherham as we predicted them to do at the weekend. And Sheffield Wednesday host Plymouth here, who have been improving on the road, to be honest. You know, they've been solid this season, but mainly at home. But the last few away games have been a bit better for Plymouth.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm a bit split on this. I just would think it'd be amazing to see Sheffield Wednesday stay up when everyone wrote them off. I feel like I was one of the only few people that was not a Sheffield Wednesday fan saying they've got a chance, you know. And I'm going to back them. 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday. Why not?
Okay, yeah, I'm actually getting the same scoreline. I backed them last week and it paid dividends. Plymouth actually have looked better on the road in their last few results, but I just feel like Sheffield Wednesday have more to fight for in this one and they can't lose, not this one at home. And I feel like they're actually going to get it over the line. 2-1.
2-1, yeah, both go the same for Sheffield Wednesday versus Plymouth. Share your thoughts on that one. It is a big game. It's weird with Plymouth, Sophie, because I don't think they're going down or going up.
No.
But they could still spoil the party for a few teams this season, couldn't they? If they can get something at Hillsborough, that'll feel like a really bad result for Sheffield Wednesday. On to the next one, Sophie. Let's go to the Stadium of Light, where it is Sunderland versus Leicester City. This is a tricky one, isn't it? Leicester City obviously go away to Sunderland, top of the table, but the form on the road recently hasn't been as good. And you do feel like Sunderland away is possibly one Leicester could slip up in.
They could, but I think it's important to mention that Sunderland are without Jack Clarke for a few weeks now, and that is a massive miss.
Yeah, that is a massive miss. He is their best player. Yeah, he is fantastic. I still think there's something about this Sunderland team. They're not completely out of the playoff picture. I'm not one to often back Leicester to drop points. I'll go for a draw. It's not, you know, a massive surprise, but...
Well, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. Let's go Sunderland 1, Leicester 1.
Okay, no. What's given me a little bit more confidence in backing Leicester away is they obviously picked up the win against Bournemouth in the FA Cup. I know it's not the league,
that was on the road, yeah.
Yeah, it's still an away win.
Good goal from Fatty.
So, yeah, he's a good player, though. So I feel like Leicester will do it. I'm going to say 2-0, but I don't think the scoreline is going to reflect the game fully. I feel like Sunderland will be in the game, but Leicester get the 3 points.
Okay, interesting. So share your thoughts on Sunderland versus Leicester City. We're going different on that one. Next up, we are going down to Ipswich Town versus Bristol City. The Tractor Boys need to keep winning to stay in the top two. And it feels like this is almost sort of cliche game. They're at home to a mid-table team with not too much to play for, potentially, that could come and really spoil things here for Ipswich. Ipswich just need to keep winning. No disrespect to Bristol City, but Ipswich need to look at this game and say, this has to be 3 points. Because they're in a top two race. They're trying to be one of the best teams in this league. I mean, they are, but they're trying to be in the best two. I did predict Bristol City to beat Cardiff at the weekend, and I feel like they let me down by not doing that. As for this one, I'm going to say Ipswich edge it. I feel like this could be close. Bristol City are a decent team, you know, and as we've said before, they raise their game for the top teams.
Yeah.
So I'll go Ipswich edge, a very close game, 2-1.
Ipswich just seem to be in great form at the moment, and I don't know who's going to stop their run. Can I see Bristol City doing it? No. I can see them giving them a good game, but for me, the Tractor Boys win 3-1. And the top two still on.
Yeah, I was split between 2-1 and 3-1, so there you go. You've gone for the prediction I nearly went for, but we're both backed in the Tractor Boys nonetheless. Share your thoughts on Ipswich Town versus Bristol City. Could the Robins possibly pinch something there? We will see. Next up, Sophie, let's go down to South Wales, where it's Cardiff City versus Huddersfield Town. What we call in this one a Neil Warnock derby. Now for Cardiff, it is back-to-back wins coming into this one. I don't think there'll be all too much to separate these two sides. Ultimately, they both need to be clawing up the table with as many points as they can in the final stretch. Huddersfield are in the sort of more dangerous situation, but I still think they'll be okay. With that, I'm actually going to go with Huddersfield. Going to go Cardiff 1, Huddersfield Town 2.
For me, I'm struggling to separate the two teams here. I feel like they're quite evenly matched at this moment in time, so I think that's going to be reflected in my scoreline. So possibly I could see this one going either way. I don't think there's going to be many goals in this one, but I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think it's a must not lose for both teams, really.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually, isn't it? Both need to just keep the points being churned on in the final stretch, I guess. Next up, Sophie, this does look a really intriguing game as we go to the Riverside. It is Middlesbrough versus Norwich City. These two seem to have swapped roles this season. Middlesbrough were right in the playoff picture. Norwich were kind of on the outside of it. This time round, Norwich are really in the thick of it, and Middlesbrough are kind of playing catch-up a bit. But they're both still involved, and if Middlesbrough win this, then they will really close the gap on the likes of Norwich City. I remember this time last season, it was towards the end of last season, Middlesbrough absolutely smashed Norwich at the Riverside. I don't think it's going to be like that.
No.
But I think Middlesbrough could pinch it. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go for it. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. I mean, Middlesbrough, let's not forget their last game at the Riverside, they really were underwhelming when they lost 2-0 at home to Plymouth. But I think this Norwich team are slightly get-attable. So I'm going to say Middlesbrough edge this game 2-1.
Okay, I actually don't see Norwich losing this one, possibly drawing. I feel like it was a good performance against Sunderland, so I'm going to back them again. So I'm going to say 2-1 Norwich.
2-1 Norwich. Okay, so we've gone completely different then. We've gone opposite ways. Share your thoughts on Middlesbrough versus Norwich City. Next up, Sophie, another intriguing game. Who'd have thought this would be a promotion matchup? It's Southampton versus Preston North End. Southampton are now back on their home turf. They take on this Preston team who have been pretty ruthless at times, and there seems to be no in-between with Preston. I think they either win this or they lose this. I can't see this one being a draw. I know Preston drew their last game against Hull City, but I just can't see this one being a draw against Southampton, who need to keep winning, and they did get that dramatic late win at Birmingham City, 4-3 in the last minute. I'm going to go Southampton, I think. I don't know why. I mean, the form book makes me think possibly Preston, but I'm going to say Southampton 2-1. I don't think there'll be a lot in this one, but I do think the Saints need to get back on track.
I thought it was a good result, really, against Birmingham, getting it over the line. But this one, I would say it's actually against tougher opposition against Preston. So saying that, I'm actually going to lean towards Preston. I'm going to go 2-1 the other way again. I do see it being a close one. I was very, very, very tempted to sit on the fence and say a 1-1 draw, but I do want to pick a winner, and that winner is Preston.
There you go. Wow, how about that? Share your thoughts on Southampton versus Preston, guys. Really intriguing matchup there at St Mary's. Share your thoughts on who wins that one. 2 games left. Let's go to Vicarage Road, where it is Watford versus Swansea City. And once again, Sophie, I really don't know for this.
Yeah.
It seems a very sort of mid-table matchup.
Yeah, so you're going to say a draw, aren't you?
I think I am, actually.
Yeah, because I am. Yeah.
I think I am. I think I'm going to dive straight in with a 1-1.
Yeah.
I think both teams score, but not lots of goals in this one. I wouldn't really personally want Watford to win this one coming into the weekend, because they play Coventry at the weekend, and I'd like to go there knowing that they're not in great form. They have got good players, Watford.
They have.
And I feel like they have been a bit underwhelming at times this season.
Definitely.
Swansea City, a little bit inconsistent, hard to put your finger on, but certainly capable of picking something up. 1-1.
Yeah, exactly as you mentioned. I think a safe bet is going for a draw. I am going to agree with you, and I say a 1-1 draw.
1-1. Yeah, share your thoughts on that game between Watford and Swansea City. The final game then, guys, is in West London, and it's an interesting one. Queen's Park Rangers versus West Bromwich Albion. 2 teams with a lot to play for here, Sophie. QPR need to keep churning the points on to get away from trouble. They take on West Bromwich Albion, Sophie, who of course are trying to hang on to their playoff place. Now, we did get to see West Brom against Coventry at the weekend. As I said, they won. Not entirely surprised by that. They are a good team. Can they keep the winning streak going here? Of course, we must mention QPR winning 2-1 at Leicester City. Probably the result of the season in the Championship this year. An astonishing result. Unfortunately, though, for QPR, lots of other teams down at the bottom also won, so they're still right in the mix. Can they follow it up with a result here? It's going to be tricky. As for this one, Sophie, I'm going to go for another draw. I think West Brom are favourites because of the league positioning. QPR have the home advantage, and you really cannot underestimate how good they've been under Cifuentes. 1-1.
No, I'm going to pick a winner in this one as well. And we did watch West Brom play against Coventry, and they looked very good. And I think they're going to continue that form into this one. It was a good result for QPR at the weekend, but I know it is coming up against a team slightly lower down the table, but I think this could be a very difficult game. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm not going completely one-sided.
2-1.
But I am back in the baggies.
2-1 West Brom.
Yeah.
It's so close, isn't it? Both the playoff and relegation races.
Yeah, it is. That's why I love this league. It's so entertaining all season long.
Yeah, and now we've come into March, it really does start getting more interesting because there's so much to play for and time's running out. Yeah, it almost seems as if there's something to play for every Championship team. Leicester, Ipswich and Leeds are locked in a very tight race at the top. Southampton are only 3 points behind Leeds. West Brom and Hull City are hanging on to the playoff places by the skin of their teeth. Norwich, Preston, Coventry and Sunderland in pursuit. The middle of the table is a cluster of teams joint on the same points, and then the relegation battle is wide open with a big possibility that anyone could go down that's currently in the bottom half as we go into the final 11 games. It's really close between everyone down there, except for Rotherham United, to be honest, who are cut adrift. And that is why Coventry need to beat them. Well, share your Championship predictions down below, guys, because that wraps up our Championship predictions. As I say, make sure to show some support by dropping a like. It's free to do, and we're going for 1,500 likes. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It's free to hit the subscribe button, and you're helping us out as we push to 60,000 subscribers. Thank you for joining me, Sophie.
Thank you.
We will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.